Breaking news! Something is happening in Baltimore that nobody saw coming. Not the fans, not the analysts, and maybe not even the front office. A decision is looming that could shake the foundation of this franchise. We're talking about one of the Ravens' biggest stars, a player whose name has echoed through M&T Bank Stadium for years. But suddenly, his presence is fading, his role is shrinking, and the question is no longer if change is coming, it's when. But before we dive into this massive storyline, make sure you hit that like button if you're a true Ravens fan. It's always amazing to see fans of all ages supporting this team. And if you feel like it, comment, "Go Ravens," so we know you're right here with us as we break it all down. Now let's get into it. Mark Andrews has looked like a shadow of his former self through 2 games. The numbers don't lie, and honestly, they're hard to believe. 4 targets, 2 receptions, 7 total yards, 0 touchdowns. That's not just a drop-off, that's a vanishing act. And this isn't happening with a crowded tight end room. Isaiah likely isn't even active. It's Andrews and Charlie Kolar. That's it, yet the involvement just isn't there. His routes run? Just 38, ranking him 24th among tight ends in the NFL. That's with the team needing pass-catching options. And despite this vacuum of opportunity, Andrews has only been targeted 4 times. It's an alarming sign of how far he's fallen in the offensive hierarchy. But it gets even worse. When he's not involved in the passing game, you'd at least expect him to make an impact as a blocker, something tight ends are often leaned on for when their number isn't being called. But even there, Andrews is falling short. Take the final drive against the Buffalo Bills. Baltimore needed a first down to ice the game. They dialed up a jet sweep to Zay Flowers, and Andrews completely missed his block. It wasn't just a slip. On both the broadcast and the end zone angles, you can clearly see a lack of urgency, a missed assignment, and ultimately, a missed opportunity to win the game. Zay Flowers was tackled behind the line of scrimmage. The drive stalled. The game slipped away. This isn't just about a couple of missed plays. It's about effort. It's about energy. And when you're supposed to be a leader, a franchise cornerstone, and you're giving up on key plays in the 4th quarter, that's when the hard conversations start. The kind of conversations fans hate, but the front office has to have. Remember, back in March, the Ravens picked up a $10 million bonus for Andrews. They didn't have to, but they believed. They trusted he'd still be the guy. That investment? It's not paying off right now. And that's where the regret kicks in. Because if the Ravens had made a move then, before the bonus hit the books, they could have saved a boatload of money and maybe even pulled a higher draft pick out of a trade. Now the whispers are turning into buzz. If this trend continues, and Andrews remains uninvolved after week 4, the NFL trade deadline is going to become very, very interesting. This isn't about emotions. It's about production. And right now, Baltimore is getting none from a guy who used to be their engine. What makes this even harder is Andrews' legacy. Over the last 4 seasons, he's been nothing short of elite. In 2024, 673 yards and 11 touchdowns, he led the team in receiving TDs. In 2023, despite only playing 10 games, he still posted 544 yards and 6 scores. The year before that, nearly 850 yards and 5 touchdowns. That kind of consistency is rare. But past performance doesn't guarantee future results, especially in a league that moves fast and forgets even faster. Because here's where it gets even more complicated, and frankly, more painful. If the Ravens do decide to explore a trade, it's not just about moving on from a player. It's about redefining a legacy. Mark Andrews isn't some role player. He's been the face of this offense alongside Lamar Jackson for years. He's made Pro Bowls, set records, and been one of the few constants in an offense that's changed coordinators, schemes, and personnel more times than most fans can count. Trading him doesn't just change the playbook, it changes the identity of this team. And here's the kicker, we're not talking about this scenario in the offseason anymore. We're mid-season. The bonus has already been paid. Any team trading for Andrews now won't be helping Baltimore offload cap space. They'll just be giving up picks for a declining player with a hefty contract. That's a hard sell, especially when the film shows lackluster blocking, reduced effort, and minimal production. The Ravens had a window to move him in March, and they didn't take it. If they try to do it now, the return will be smaller, and the optics will be much worse. This leads us to Isaiah Likely. The Ravens already seem to have a successor waiting in the wings. Likely, who's been sidelined recently, was limited in practice ahead of the Cleveland game and remains a game-time decision for Monday night against Detroit. But if and when he returns, you can expect the coaching staff to give him every opportunity to step up. They've seen the flashes. They know what he's capable of. If he makes a few plays, if he shows he can block and stretch the field, then the baton might quietly pass, whether the front office says it out loud or not. John Harbaugh was asked about Likely's status earlier this week. His response was cautiously optimistic. He's hopeful. But as any Ravens fan knows, when it comes to injuries in Baltimore, optimism has to be tempered with reality. Likely fractured his foot just over 6 weeks ago. Physically, he might be ready. Mentally, trusting that injury, cutting on it, planting with it, that's the final hurdle. If he can clear that, he could play Monday night. If not, the Ravens may look ahead to week 4 against the Chiefs. And if Likely does return, and Andrews continues to disappear, the tight end hierarchy may shift quickly. That would leave Baltimore with a difficult but obvious decision to make: ride out the rest of the season with a declining, expensive veteran whose role is shrinking week by week, or make the bold call and move forward with a younger, cheaper, and more dynamic option, who just happens to be a better fit for Todd Monken's system. Because let's not forget, this isn't Greg Roman's offense anymore. The days of heavy tight end usage and 13 personnel looks are over. This is a wide-open, pass-heavy scheme that demands tight ends be threats, not passengers. The film doesn't lie. Andrews isn't getting open, and when he is, Lamar isn't looking his way. The chemistry that once lit up secondaries now looks flat. Maybe it's scheme, maybe it's effort, maybe it's the toll of seasons spent playing such a physical role in this offense. Whatever the reason, it's impossible to ignore anymore. The only question now is, does the front office have the guts to act on it? There's still time for Andrews to change this narrative. A breakout performance against Detroit on Monday Night Football would silence a lot of critics. A touchdown, some critical third down conversions, a red zone mismatch that Lamar exploits, that's what fans want to see. Not just because it helps the Ravens win, but because it shows there's still fight in the guy who once led the team in receiving. If he can find that fire again, there might be hope. But if we're still asking the same questions in week 5, the front office might not be so patient. The clock is ticking, and all eyes are on Mark Andrews. This story isn't just about stats or snap counts, it's about legacy, leadership, and the brutal truth of the NFL: no one is safe forever. What if I told you that one of the most consistent weapons in the Ravens offense, a Pro Bowler, a fan favorite, and one of Lamar Jackson's most trusted targets, is now being seen as a possible liability? And what if I told you that behind the scenes, the organization might already be preparing for life without him? We're not speculating wildly here. The numbers are real. The film is undeniable. And the signs? They're right in front of us. It's not just that the production has dipped, it's the way it's happening. Minimal targets, fewer snaps, missed blocks, and yes, moments on film that raise serious questions about effort and urgency. The kind of moments that coaches do not forget when it comes time to make hard decisions. And this isn't just a bump in the road. It's starting to feel like a pivot point in the Ravens' offensive identity. With the new system installed by Todd Monken, there's a shift towards speed, spacing, and explosiveness. Every player on the field needs to be a threat. Every route run has to count. And if you're not producing, you're not playing. Simple as that. So what happens when the player not producing is Mark Andrews? It's a question no one wanted to ask. But now, we don't have a choice. The trade deadline is creeping closer. Isaiah Likely's return is on the horizon. And the Ravens have already committed a chunk of money to a player who is now struggling to justify his role. If things don't change fast, and I mean within weeks, we could be watching the final chapter of a remarkable Ravens career unfold before our eyes. But what do you think, Ravens fans? Could this really be the beginning of the end for Mark Andrews in Baltimore? Let me know if you're ready for the full breakdown.